Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya Lila. Chapter 15, text 84. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupad. Rasa harim eha vihita vilasam Smarati mano mama krita parihasam Rasa harim iha vihita vilasam Smarati mano mama krita parihasam Rasa harim iha vihita vilasam Smarati mano mama krita parihasam. Translation: here in the arena of the Rasa dance, I remember Krishna, who is always fond of joking and performing pastimes. Purport. The purport just gives information as follows. This verse, Gita Govinda, chapter 2, verse 3, is sung by Srimati Radharani. This verse, or half a verse, which we read, is from Sri Gita Govinda, as quoted in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Signs are everywhere, on the door, inside. Not good. So this half a verse is from Gita Govinda, as quoted in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. It concerns Krishna's Rasa Lila. When I say it, what do I mean? The verse or Gita Govinda? What's the answer? This verse or Gita Govinda? Well, the whole Gita Govinda and this verse. Gita Govinda is centered around Rasa Lila and Krishna's and Radha's separation and reunion and all the events. And that is the center of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Lila. And today is the Purnima, the full moon day, which is preceding the beginning of the Kartik month. And generally the last day, the Purnima of Kartik, is known as Rasa Purnima. The night, on that night, Krishna dances Rasa Lila. But on this, it's also in our calendar given this night, or this day also as Rasa Yatra. So Krishna may do anytime. Anytime, any day. Well, mostly in the night. He did one Ras dance in the night. In the day, sorry. Can anyone think of that one? At least one we know of. Any suggestions? Well, I was thinking of it's not so well known, but on the Kaliya's heads, I believe it's in the Vaishnava Toshani of Sanatana Goswami, that one time he took, unseen to the rest of the inhabitants of Vrindavan, he took the gopis and they all danced on the heads of Kaliya. So he really got a lot of mercy that time round. Generally it's a night pastime, and long night. The night extends to the extent of the night of Lord Brahma. So this is also the center of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Lila. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu pining in the mood of Radharani for Krishna, and it's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu especially came to give, came to offer. Jadi Gaura hoito tobe ki hoito kemone dharitam de Radhar Mahima Prema Rasa Shima Jagate Janatoke Madhura Brinda Bipina Madhuri Prabesha Chaturi Shah Baraja Jubati Bhavera Bhakati Shakati hoito ka. As the Vaishnav poet, Gauriya poet Basu Ghosh sings, had Chaitanya Mahaprabhu not appeared, how could we have lived? Because the glories of Srimati Radharani, which are the summit of Prema Ras, who could have revealed that to the world, and who had the power to reveal the world to the world, the sweetness of the loving feelings of the gopis of Vrindavan, entering into that sweet pastimes of the sweet groves of Vrindavan is the ultimate. So this is, and this Gopi Lila is the quintessence, is the Rasa Lila. So as it's, today is the day leading up to the night when, on this night Krishna dances with his gopis, so we can discuss this a little bit. Srila Prabhupada, one quote, he generally Srila Prabhupada spoke, we're not the body, and so many times, but he often, actually quite a few times, spoke about Rasa Lila, often in a warning mood, don't jump in if you're not qualified, but also pointing out, for instance, I'll read this quote from a lecture in Bombay in 1974. He said that intelligence is that we should again go back to home, go back to Krishna, and dance with him in his rasa dance. That will be our pleasure. So this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu revealed to the world. It was there in the Srimad Bhagavatam for all, at least those who could read Sanskrit, which means mostly the Brahmanas who would study Shastra. It was an open secret, so to speak, well known throughout India, especially after the Gita Govinda. The Gita Govinda, after it was composed in modern day terms, it went viral. It went all over India. But in many places of India became very popular, and maybe not in Kashmir, there are heavy Shaivas up there, but in South India, especially in Orissa and Bengal, it became very popular, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he appreciated that very much. So, although the topic of the Ras Lila is very confidential, at the same time it's very well known. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave the proper siddhanta on this, to understand it properly. Because, although it's well known, it's difficult to philosophically justify. Unless we can appreciate Krishna as the Rasika Shekhar, the pinnacle of all connoisseurs of enjoyment. But that's a very elevated understanding. So people know about the Ras Lila, but how do they accommodate it within their mind? Well, mostly they don't understand. Even to understand Krishna is not an ordinary thing. Bahunam janmanamante jnanavang mang prapadyate vasudeva sarvamiti samahatma sudurlabhaha. Simply to understand that Krishna is all in all and surrender to him may take place after many births of searching for the truth, and such a Mahatma who does that is very rare. to understand Krishna's glories. Atapi te deva padambuja dvayam prasada leshanu grahita eva hi janati tattvam bhagavan mahimno nachanya ekopi chirang vachinvan. To understand Krishna's glories requires to get at least a drop of his mercy, because simply to try and study and by one's own mental feats try to understand him, it's not possible to approach him, even after many, many lifetimes of attempting to do so. So knowledge of Krishna's Rasa Lila is there out in the world, or at least out in the Indian society, via Srimad Bhagavatam especially. But the understanding Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave in full, and others, what do they say about it? Well, they can philosophize and they can say that, well, it's just symbolic. Krishna represents the supreme good, and the gopis represent the supreme loving, they'll say represent. It's not actually God, but they'll try to give some allegorical interpretation. But where's Krishna actually in that? And then Krishna just becomes like a cartoon figure on a screen, which now most children, their impression of who is Krishna is a cartoon character, thanks to some of our renegade friends in Bangalore. But actually everywhere. You see it in ISKCON temples, they're selling these offensive representations of Krishna. I just saw on some screen, cartoon Krishna is standing there, and then one cartoon gopi comes up and starts giggling. What are people going to understand by this? Then there's kind of misrepresentation. So Bangalore also, they were the first ones to butcher Prabhupada's books by giving Krishna book competitions with all the philosophy left out and all the immoral parts left out, like the Rasa Lila, right? They left that out in the Krishna book. So only the good Krishna was there, not the bad Krishna, no philosophy. So Prabhupada, he presented Rasa Lila and he explained it, as Shukadev did. He didn't avoid it, but he explained it after explaining 9 cantos of Bhagavatam. But then even when he came to the Rasa Lila, he explained it also. And Parikshit Maharaj, he questioned, for the sake of others, why is Krishna doing this? Because that's another misunderstanding, is that they say, well, it's just Krishna's immoral, that's all. And that's a common accusation among proselytizing Christians in India today. Oh, this Krishna is immoral. So what kind? Our Jesus is very moral, and your Krishna he's immoral. So, of course, some people say that Jesus, whatever you do, someone's going to criticize. And Jesus, he broke up families. He just walked up to some people and told them, okay, just they were fishermen, leave your fishing nets and leave your families and come with me. He made them sannyasis on the spot. No. And what will happen to our families? He said. Who will feed them? He said, well, God feeds the birds, so he'll feed your family also. So he became unpopular to the extent that, for various reasons, to the extent that he was crucified. But anyway, this accusation is that he's immoral, and the proper understanding is given by our acharyas. But even among our acharyas, our Gauriya acharyas, there was, among Gauriya devotees, there was a controversy. Some say that, well, actually Krishna is married to the gopis, and some say, no, he's not married. He's married, that ultimately he marries them, so that means that's good. But others, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur established, no, there's no marriage because that's the whole point. Parakya bhav, the feeling. It's a very complex, not very difficult to understand, but it's a bit complex because although Krishna, and in fact the Ras Lila starts with using the term Ishvara for Krishna. Although he's the Supreme Lord, he desired to dance. So, making that point, he's the Supreme Lord. So there are various points to be understood here. That he is above mundane morality. He is the supreme enjoyer. But there's a feeling there is a feeling in Krishna's Ras Lila of impropriety. Because that adds to the excitement of it all. So this is understandable only through deep understanding of Gauriya Siddhanta. There's also Sahajya understanding, Prakrita Sahajya, who promote that sex is the way to self-realization. So Krishna represents the male principle and Radha represents the female principle, and so they join together, and that's the union of Purusha and Prakriti. It's mixed up, all different bits and pieces of philosophy mixed up here. And then a male in this world has to become Krishna, and a female, they become gopis, and you can imagine the rest yourself. So there are so many misunderstandings, and although we're warned not to jump in, fools rush in where angels fear to tread. It's an English saying. I wonder where that's from. I'll make a note to look that up. I guess it is Shakespeare, but I don't know. It's relevant in this context. So what is the reason that Krishna dances Ras Lila with the gopis? See, philosophy means we should also try to find out the reason, analyze what is the reason. What is the reason? Any ideas? Pleasure. It's fun. He likes it. It's joyful. It's bliss. Anandamayo bhasat. The absolute truth is blissful. We are blissful by nature. Satchidananda. You know this, what is that? Yato va imani bhutani jain. There's also in the same Taittiriya Upanishad, there's a whole series which Ananda, everything comes from Ananda, it's meant for Ananda, enters into Ananda. The source of everything, the maintenance of everything, it's all Ananda. Actually, some of us should learn the Upanishads also. There's a lot of blissful stuff in there, important if we can relate that to Gauriya teaching. So why does Krishna do anything? Well, why does anyone do anything? Why does this ant here crawling around? There are two of them here, just to the left here. You can believe me. You can't see them. You have to have faith in your guru's words. Why are they crawling around? I don't know exactly. They're probably looking for some sweet or something like that. Ultimately, everything they do is for bliss, for pleasure. A lot of that in the material world is just avoiding pain. And a lot of it is just, especially in the modern age, getting facilities so that one can live. But the ultimate aim is pleasure. So Krishna, everything he does is for pleasure, and he shares his pleasure with his devotees. And dancing is the highest pleasure. When we like to talk with others, and in the spiritual world, katha ganam, talking is singing, natyam gamanam, walking is dancing. So you can imagine when they really start singing and dancing, what's it like? The talking is so sweet, it's like song, and the movement is so pleasing that it's like dance. So when we like to talk with others, parasparo pakatanam, discussing with others, but words, when they become more filled with rasa, become poetry. And poetry, then the drama, singing, and then dancing. So dancing is the ultimate expression of happiness. And in Ras Lila there's singing, dancing, music. Gopis, some of them are expert musicians also. So it's the highest bliss. And it's such bliss that Krishna, he comes again as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and again he's dancing. And he invites us all to join in his dancing. There's the verse after this Rasa Hare Meha Vihita Vilasam Smarati Mano Mama Krita Parihasam. So the verse after this, just after this, and there are many such verses in Chaitanya Charitamrita, the translation that no, I'll read the Bengali also. Shuru Goshai Jabe A Pad Gahila Uti Prima Beshe Prabhu Nachite Lagela. When Swarup Damodar sang this pada, this song, this verse, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu got up and began to dance in Premananda, ecstatic love of Krishna. So, the dancing, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is accused, why are you dancing? He said, I can't help it. I sing and I just can't help it. I just start dancing. I can't stop it. Bhaktivinoda Thakur also, in his glorification of one of his many songs glorifying the holy name, says, Stira hoite na pare charan. He said, I can't keep my legs still. I have to dance. So that's, this dancing is the bliss of the spiritual world. And Krishna, he comes to this world, okay, that's the spiritual world, but why does Krishna do it in the material world? He's misleading everyone. No, he's properly leading. He's inviting. Come and join. He's showing his blissful pastimes within this world so that we can be attracted. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes and similarly dances and invites everyone to join. So to join Krishna's Rasa Lila, singing and dancing, that requires a very high level of spiritual purity. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is so merciful that everyone at any stage can join his singing and dancing. And we find in Chaitanya Lila, even the drunkards would come and join him. And we have the same experience today all over the world. Generally, whenever we go for singing and dancing, singing the holy names of Krishna in the big cities, especially in the Western world, especially after dark, when the mode of ignorance increases, there are always drunken people wandering around the streets, and they'll come and join us. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted, they can also sing and dance. They can join in. But of course there was some times when it was restricted. Before he went public with his holy name chanting, he was restricted to the house of Srivas Thakur. So, it's all bliss. Ananda chinmaya rasa pratibhavita bisthabhira eva nijarupa taya kalabihi goloka eva nivasatya kilatma bhuta govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. This is the Supreme Lord, the original person from the spiritual world. He's also in everyone's heart, and he performs these blissful pastimes with these gopis who are expansions of himself. So how is it sinful? Everything's an expansion of himself. And it's chinmaya rasa. It's completely spiritual. In the mundane, everything is blamable. We talk about mundane good and mundane bad, but Daite bhadra bhadra gyan shab mano dharma e bhalo e manda e shab brahm. No, I put it around that way. Daite bhadra bhadra gyan daite bhadra bhadra gyan. Yeah, so I got it, yeah. It's all some mental speculation in this material world that this is good and that's bad. It's all bad. We're in a bad situation. So the so-called goodness of this world is bad also, because it all ends up in forgetfulness of Krishna, which means ultimately there comes to be exploitation of others. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he elaborately analyzed how even the doing good in this world means if you do good to one, you do harm to another. That's the way of the world. Whereas in the spiritual world, even if you say something is bad, there's also parihasam is mentioned here, joking. So joking at the expense of others, trying to make them look stupid, for instance. That's all there in Krishna Lila. But it's all ananda chinmaya, it's all blissful. There's nothing bad in there. So even if we think it's bad, it cannot be bad. Anyway, good and bad, ultimately who is the judge of that? That's the Supreme Lord. Krishna is the Supreme Lord. So what he wants is good, and what he doesn't want is bad. So that's the proper understanding. So Krishna comes to invite us. And especially as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he invites everyone to join singing and dancing, singing the holy names of Krishna. It's not like any ordinary singing and dancing. There may be some singing. The other day I mentioned how we saw there's this bhajans, and someone had made up in support of Andhra Pradesh's special state status, political bhajans, or it may be done for a political purpose, as did Mahatma Gandhi with his Raghupati Raghava Raja Ram. Very good bhajan, very good song to sing, but his purpose was political. Even though it sounds very good, Ishvara Allah Tera Nam Sabko Sanmati De Bhagavan. Yes, let's all live together very peacefully, but it was some political purpose, even when we say it's good political purpose, but it's all hopeless, because it's all hopeless. His faith was not there in Raghupati Raghava. His faith was in his own political and mental speculations. So Krishna invites us to join him in singing and dancing, and by singing and dancing in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan movement, we can ultimately be elevated to join Krishna in his dancing in Vrindavan. Apart from his Rasa dancer in Vrindavan, he also enjoys daytime dances with his cowherd boyfriends, funny dances. They like to do dancing. It's natural pleasure. So in dancing, Krishna, who is the supreme beautiful, the supreme sweet, the supreme charming. Of course, God means the supreme powerful. But that's not the most important aspect of his supremacy, as is here in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Madhurja Bhagavata Sa. Sweetness is the essence of Krishna's being God, his godness. So it's in his Rasa Lila, especially, that his charm, his beauty, his sweetness, everything is revealed. His mercy also, his great mercy that he invites us to come and join us. So, as Srila Prabhupada writes in the songbook, in the purport to the Gaurangara Dutipada song, that I'm paraphrasing here, the ultimate aim of the devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is to join Krishna in his Rasa dance. But it is misunderstood. Rasa dance literally means a circle, dancing in a circle. So, going round and round in a circle. And we still see that in in Gujarat, but that's supposed to be in praise of Durga. This Garba dance, dancing in a circle. Now it's become a disco function. Literally, they bring DJs from Bombay to Gujarat, pay the 2,000 rupees a ticket, and all this kind of thing. Commercialized. Beware commercialization. Beware. Money is very dangerous. We want to keep simple living and high thinking. Well, let some money come in. Yeah, be careful. Money, just whatever we need to set things up. Otherwise, very dangerous. Will spoil everything. It spoils people's character also. It spoils people's way of thinking. They can only think in terms of money. They can't think. They think we live on money. They don't realize we live on food. They say, yeah, food okay, but you need money to get. You don't need money to get food. It's something that's become in between. Anyway, getting back to the subject of coming from Annamaya to Anandamaya. So this is very much misunderstood, especially by Hindus. Actually, in the West, if we say to people that, well, God is the highest manifestation of God, He dies, they say, oh, that's when many people think, oh, that's very nice, very good. In fact, one of the modern world's, he's supposed to be the greatest philosopher, although he didn't really have a philosophy as such, but he had some thoughts here and there which are very influential. Friedrich Nietzsche. So he was atheist and anti-Christian. Mostly, it seems many of the atheists in the Western world, their atheism is predicated on disgust with Christianity. They don't have knowledge of the Bhagavad Tattva Vijnanam, the science of Godhead, as given in the Bhagavatam. So he facetiously, one of his sayings is that I could believe in a God if he danced. Because the vision of God in the Judaic tradition is someone who just smashes you. If you don't follow exactly what he says, interpret it according to whichever church you belong to, then you get thrown in hell to burn forever. As I remember, one of the songs we used to sing in school, the secondary school that I attended was trying to be very liberal, so they didn't sing traditional hymns so much, but they sung, because it was in America there was the time of the civil liberties uprising, trying to get the civil rights for the black people. Martin Luther King was shot dead. Our school was named after John F. Kennedy, who was also shot dead. It's John F. Kennedy School. And so we sung these gospel songs, which means they're religious songs which were sung by slaves, black slaves in America. So one of the lines I remember from that is, quoting God, I shall smite 'em ad infinitum. Smite means to smash someone. So the purport is, I will smash them eternally. So this is their vision of God. That we're on God's side and everyone else is on Satan's side. So they'll all get smashed forever. Whoops. And one of the great Christian theologian, Thomas Aquinas, gave a vision of the greatest pleasure in heaven is looking down in hell and watching all of them suffering. So what a horrible religion. So no wonder people became atheists. But actually God is the supreme enjoyer, and He dances. He does that. That's the most important thing He does, is dances with His loving companions. You may say, well, there's war here and there's starvation there, and yeah, but Krishna's taking his cows. It's devotees. Devotees, they absorb themselves in the pastimes of Krishna. Of course, the preachers in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement, they compassionately bring knowledge of Krishna to the suffering world, so that people can be relieved from the horrible situation which they've created for themselves in this Kali Yuga. But a devotee's real interest is not in various political movements or even in various different philosophies. Their interest is, Krishna is now going to the cow. Let's bring him. The gopis may come and bring him some extra snacks. They're interested in the pastimes, the all-loving pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan. So people not understanding this, we find often it's India. If anyone protests in the West, it's more likely to protest. Well, they have all kinds of funny things. I remember once distributing books in Ireland, and a Catholic priest came up to me. We were distributing Ishopanishad with the picture of Vishnu with the snakes. He said, see, it's the devil. It's all snakes. Because they have an idea that the devil takes the form of a snake. So it's not much high philosophy there. But those who know something about it, they become concerned. Often in the West, they will see Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is encouraging Arjuna to fight, and that's the thing they tend to become upset about more. Although actually we find in the history of quote-unquote Hinduism, the Bhagavad Gita has never been used to incite people to fight wars for the sake of just conquering for the sake of conquering. The whole idea, there is fighting, of course, there's a martial class, the Kshatriyas, but they are enjoined to fight for the sake of dharma. And of course, that all broke down in course of time. But often it may be Indians who become concerned. Actually, this could be investigated historically, but I suspect that prior to the arrival of the British, and they're trying to break down the Vedic culture by criticizing Krishna and criticizing the Vedas, that no one had a problem with this. Even those who were anti-Vaishnava, there were Shaivas, especially in South India, who were anti-Vaishnava, but they didn't accuse Krishna of being immoral. That idea only came up, I believe, like I say, it could be investigated, with the British who brought this. The British had the idea, we're very moral and these Indians, they're very immoral. They must be immoral because they're Indian. They're stupid people. They don't eat cows, and they believe in all these funny things. So I believe it may be Indians who imbibe this Victorian sense of morality, and who became concerned. Krishna's dancing with the gopis. That's not very good. Although there is some in Parikshit's asking Shukadev that Krishna came to establish dharma, then it appears to be adharma that he's dancing with these girls. So that was the objection, and then Shukadev replied to that. So that objection could arise in anyone's mind, but it's understood that there is a different morality for people in different situations and statuses of life. Just like, for instance, when Arjuna went to the heavenly planets, Urvashi desired to enjoy with him sexually, and Arjuna said, well, I can't, because you're my great something or other, Masi or something like that. And she said, well, that doesn't apply here in the heavenly planets. That's for men on the earth. And you're in heaven now, so there's no problem. Arjuna said, sorry. So she cursed him to become a eunuch, which happened. But the point here is that there's different levels of morality for different people. Even in Varnashram society, for brahmanas to eat meat, except if it's yagya, especially drinking, okay, let's give this example. For brahmanas to drink wine is considered most fallen. But for Shudras, it's expected. They're Shudras. What do you expect? So they're different. It's a complex subject. And in the modern way of thinking, they think there should be one standard of morality for everyone. Some kind of linear morality, two-dimensional way of thinking about the world. So the Vedic culture is much more intricate and takes into account that people are, that's the whole point of the Western, that they think everyone's all the same, everything is the same for everyone. Everyone's all the same rights, everyone, they've made some major mistake there right in the beginning of their reasoning. So oftentimes we find that many moralistic people, they accuse Krishna of breaking the rules of morality. But Krishna, after all, is this supreme personality of Godhead, and he's not bound by human morality. He can do whatever he likes. And we can't criticize. We're not we may say, well, that's not a very good God. He can just do what he likes. But actually what he does is for the welfare of everyone. He doesn't do any harm to anyone. There's a story, Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj told of the Shah of Iran. This must have been during the 19th century or something. The Shah, he came to, France, and as they were showing him all the glories of French culture, one of the things they showed was the guillotine, which was a major part of French history, the very efficient device for executing people by cutting their head off with one swift stroke, guaranteed to kill them first time. Drops down a heavy blade, and cleanly cuts off their head. So very efficient device by which, especially in the time just after the French Revolution, thousands of French people were executed. So the Shah had never heard of this before, because I guess nowadays we have, it's a global village, and you can learn about different things from different countries very easily. So he was fascinated by that. He thought, oh, that's very interesting. Give me a demonstration. Show me. He said, well, we can't do that. He said, you see that you can't just kill someone. They can be executed the criminal can be executed, but we don't have anyone ready for execution now. He said, well, you just take anyone and kill them. Just show me, I want to see. He said, you don't understand, you see, we have the laws. But I'm a king, I don't have to follow them. He said, okay, I'll give one of my men. He said, no, we can't do that either. It's against our law. He said, you don't know what a king is. You don't know what it is, a king. So, and they don't, because the last king they had, he went under the guillotine also. They didn't have any more kings after that. So, that's the point. He can do whatever he likes. And we we can from our platform say, that's not good, that's bad, but the law is given by him. Fortunately, he is good. If we had some of our modern politicians as God, it would be a really tough time. So it's already tough enough for the people underneath them, but if they had complete power to do anything and everything, like Hiranyakashipu thought he had, it would be a really tough time. But fortunately, Krishna is good. He's not bad. But people accuse him of being bad because they don't understand that he's not under the laws of mundane morality. There are rules. Don't dance with don't go off with other people's wives. Why is that? Well, there are so many reasons. As we find in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna was protesting. Strishu, dushtashu, varshnaya, jayate, varna sankara. By associating with others' wives, then bad population is produced. By so much disturbance there is in human society. The whole culture, the whole society becomes degraded. So it's a sinful activity. But that's not there in the case of Krishna, that we don't find any such thing. That it was all arranged by Krishna's yoga maya potency. That the husbands of the gopis thought that their wife was with them. And in fact, they would be there in another duplicate form. So it's all arranged by Krishna's potency. But actually they weren't even the wives. The illusion is that they were the wives of different cowherd men of Vrindavan, but actually they weren't. Because every living being is ultimately the servant of Krishna. And what to speak of the gopis, who are the topmost devotees. So people who can't understand this, they think, well, why? He's God, so how could he do such a bad thing? But their whole understanding is a misunderstanding. One has to understand what Krishna, he lives for pleasure. The highest pleasure is in giving pleasure to others or sharing pleasure with others. And Krishna shares the highest pleasure with his highest devotees. And who are the highest devotees? Those who have the highest motive to please Krishna. So Krishna simply wants to please them, and they simply want to please Krishna in the best possible way. And this dancing, that is great pleasure. Personally, one enjoys it, and they share that enjoyment with others. The gopis, they are the predominated, being in female form, they're predominated, so they're particularly trying to please Krishna, and Krishna takes the role of the supreme, or he is the supreme enjoyer. That is his permanent role, and as the supreme enjoyer, he accepts the service of his devotees, and they dance to please him, he dances to please them. It's an exchange of pure love, which can't be understood by people who think that morality is the highest principle. Actually, in this world, morality is higher than love, which gives lovers a lot of problems. Because you shouldn't run away. I fell in love with someone else's wife. We ran away. But no, people can't understand our love. It's higher than anything else. But no, it's not. You'll be punished by the law. You'll be punished by the laws of nature, because love in this world, it's not pure love. And it has effects in the form of children, sexual activity, and children, they have to be looked after. They require families. So morality is to regulate the lust of this world. But Krishna's beyond the lust of this world. So there's no mundane moral binds on him. So rather than being immoral, it's the topmost Even the word morality doesn't even, it's far, far beyond the platform of morality. But people misunderstand it. I'll speak more about this tomorrow, Krishna willing. Hare Krishna. Any question or comment so far?
Sometimes when some people were accusing Krishna, that Krishna is immoral, then when Prabhupada was speaking with those people, then he was telling that actually if you are thinking that this is your wife...
If you think this is my wife, I'm very moral. No, you're immoral, because she belongs to Krishna. She's meant to serve Krishna, and you are meant to too. Here's a common, I've said this many times. If someone says to you, Krishna's immoral, he dances with the gopis. So you say, well, okay, how do you know he dances with the gopis? What's your answer to that? How do you know that Krishna dances with the gopis? What's the answer? Stated in Srimad Bhagavatam. So there it's also stated in Srimad Bhagavatam that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then you should accept that also. And it also describes how he's not immoral in doing so. It also describes how he lifted Govardhan hill. So if you accept that he danced with the gopis, then you should accept it on the authority of Srimad Bhagavatam. Then you should accept everything else that's said about him in Srimad Bhagavatam. Then they may say, no, there's actually no person as Krishna. Then why are you bothering? Then why do you bother at all? And don't accuse of immorality. Just say that it's some story. But then we may also say there's no such person as Jesus. Actually, there are some scholars who question that the whole story of Jesus is true at all. There are scholarly grounds for doubting it, that the person Jesus described in the Bible ever existed at all. Anyway, I won't get into that now. But these kind of discussions, they're not very fruitful, but at least we should know how to defend from such accusations. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.